Hey, what's up, everyone? Thank y'all for tuning in for Say What I Mean podcast. And I appreciate all that. I appreciate the support and the love I've been getting y'all comments. And today's show, we're going to start off the week strong. There's a few things I want to talk about. Number one, today is the first voting contest in the presidential election, the Iowa caucus. I want to touch on that. But I just don't want to focus on that because sometimes when a presidential election happens, all of our energy get focused on that. And there's so many more problems. There's so many more issues that need to be discussed. And we're going to get into that as well. Of course, last night was the Super Bowl. I want to touch on a few ads that happened during the Super Bowl. I want to touch on this Jay Z Kaepernick situation. What y'all think about the deal, the Jay Z NFL deal after the ads? So I definitely want to hear from y'all about that as well. And one thing I definitely want to focus on, and it been getting out of hand. It been happening for a while now, and I feel like it not being addressed in the proper way. There is a gender war that been happening between black men and black women. And it's not all of us. I don't even think it's the majority of us, but there is a lot of animosity on social media that you see. And I'm going to give a few examples, especially this latest example with Terry Crews throwing Gabrielle Union under the bus and the reaction that happened after that. And Facebook been crazy with that. Twitter been crazy with that. And one thing I want to address is we got to stop taking one example and saying that's the rule for the entire gender. They'll take one black man saying something bad about black women and say, okay, that's black men always throwing black women under the bus, and vice versa, because black men also do it. They'll take a comment a black woman have made or a black woman group have made, and they say, okay, that's how black women feel about black men. It's not like that. It's not like that for the majority, not what I see, because all my friends we respect our black women, and most of the black women I know respect us. So this got to stop, and we need to address it head on. But the first thing I'm going to talk about is the Super Bowl last night, right? NFL fan. I know a lot of people was boycotting because of Kaepernick, and Jay Z received a lot of blowback because of this situation, because of the deal he struck with the NFL, while Colin Kaepernick is still unemployed. Now, when it first happened, my opinion was we need to wait and see what comes out of it. I didn't want to jump to conclusions. It did feel a little bit funny. I think Jay Z worded it wrong when he said, okay, we passed kneeling. He shouldn't have said that, but I didn't want to jump down his throat with it. And one of the things going forward, what I'm going to try to do, because I'm not perfect at this, I don't want to criticize every black person every time they do something wrong. You know, we have a tendency, because they're in the public light, to just jump down people's throats. So if unless somebody is outright selling out or outright cooning, that's something different. Terry Crews, we're going to address that. Yes, all the criticism he getting is warranted. But if you just disagree with somebody black and you'll have a different worldview, I'm going to try not to get at them too much. I think that should be the mentality going forward. But I wanted to see what was going to come out of this deal. And we seen some of it last night. There was some ads about police violence. They mentioned both them Ja case. Both them John who got killed by Amber Geyer. That was in the news a few months ago. But they also mentioned two other incidents that I don't think people was as familiar with. So you had during the Super Bowl, Super Bowl is what the highest rated program of the year every year. So during the Super Bowl, the NFL had ads addressing police violence, which I'm for. I support that. How much difference would it really make? I don't know, because I think people already have their minds made up on police brutality. If you don't know it's a problem by now, I don't know what to tell you. But I still think it's a good thing keeping it in the public eye, because people forget. People that support police reform sometimes forget because we got our regular lives to live. When the media stop covering it, sometimes we forget about these important issues. So that's why I started this podcast too, because I want to keep cases like this in the forefront. And I need your help with that. I need your help with support and, subscribing, clicking that notification because of that. But yeah, what do y'all think about it? I definitely want to get engaged with that because Jay-Z was criticized. Is these ads worth it? Is having police violence in the forefront during the highest rated television program of the year worth dealing with the NFL? I don't know. I understand both points of view because Colin Kaepernick is still blackballed. Granted, the protest wasn't about him receiving the job. When he initially started protesting, he said it was to bring light to police brutality and police violence that was going on around the country with no justice. So Jay Z is actually doing that with this ad. However, I know some people feel a little bit different. Some people feel like, okay, if Colin Kaepernick is the one that brought attention to this, and he might not be a superstar player, but he's definitely better than a lot of the trash quarterbacks that's out there in the league, especially backups. He'll be one of the best backups in the league. That's at a minimum. And I think he could be a lower tier starter. But to make the argument that some people are trying to make that he wasn't good enough to be in the league is really disingenuous. But I definitely want your opinion on that. Me, I don't know. I still want to see more. I know Jay Z is lobbying the NFL to spend upward to about $100 million in different social justice efforts. I know Jay Z, along with Yo Gotti, is suing the Mississippi for the conditions of the prisons there. And if y'all not up on that story, that is crazy too. What happened in Mississippi is just crazy. Um, Inmates is turning up dead. There's no control there because the state don't want to put in money. The conditions is horrific there, and more light need to be brought to that as well. So, give me your opinion on that. Now, the Iowa caucus. What is a caucus, and why can't it just be the Iowa primary or regular voting? Caucuses make no sense to me. Basically, it's like ranked choice voting, but not as accurate. Ranked choice voting is like when you can choose more than one candidate. You have your first choice, second choice, third choice, and etc. Right? With the caucus, it's like a combination of that, but it's just bizarre. They go in the room. Each candidate have their section that they go to, and if they don't make the cut, because each candidate, I guess, in the precinct have to make the cut is 15%. So if the candidate you like don't have 15%, the other supporters get to lobby you to join their side. And just to me, it's just crazy because I think if you don't want people to know how you voting, that should be your right. Because in these caucuses that you vote publicly, and also some people can be convinced with false information. That's another problem. Caucuses need to be abolished. Matter of fact, this whole system need to be abolished. We should have one primary night where everybody vote at the same time. Because another problem with the Iowa caucuses is this: Iowa is 90 white, 90% white, but they get to set the tone for the entire primary. For the Democratic primary, for the Republican primary, they get to set the tone because they the first to vote. I live in New York State. New York State is one of the more populous states in the country. By the time we vote, we don't vote until April. The race could already be over because Super Tuesday is next month. Super Tuesday is when a bunch of states vote. California, most of the delegates is going to be handed out during that time period, and that's before New York vote. So why do a state with a large population like New York don't get a say in the presidential nomination? Is already messed up. We don't really get any time during the general election because New York is always going to go to the Democrats. So basically, you have whole regions of the country that have no say in the nomination. I know that's the excuse they use for the electoral college and this whole delicate process. They try to say, well, you know, the small communities will get ignored, but the bigger communities get ignored anyway. And a lot of these large urban centers is where a lot of quote unquote minority voters are, is where a lot of black voters are, and we get completely ignored because of this process. Because each state have unique problems, each state got unique solutions. So this process need to be overturned. The electoral college, I think there's been a lot of discussion with that, but it need to be more discussion how we even nominating these candidates right now. Major candidates announced last year. It seemed like this campaign been going on forever, but it just now starting with the first vote. It seemed like it been going on for like 3 years, like Trump time and like Asian dog years. It just never ending. I can't wait till this over. But it's been a lot of ebbs and flows. People counted Bernie Sanders out. It seemed like he got a lot of momentum. We see what happened tonight. A lot of people seem to think he's going to win Iowa. He's already up like double digits in New Hampshire, so he got the potential to win the first two states. Maybe he's doing okay in Nevada. He's even gaining a little bit in South Carolina, so we'll see. A lot of people thought Biden was going to be the de facto nominee. Doesn't seem like that's a guarantee anymore, but I wouldn't count him out either because he's not too behind in the polls right now in Iowa or New Hampshire. Biden can actually win Iowa tonight. He can win New Hampshire. If anybody but Bernie Sanders win Iowa, I think that is good for Biden ultimately, because if he can win New Hampshire or Iowa, and keep his momentum and win South Carolina, he's looking good for the nomination, I think. Um, but that's just the horse race of it. What about the issues? And that's what the mainstream media don't really address, or when they address it in a shallow way. So there's been some talk on healthcare. There's been talk on Medicare for all versus just expanding the ACA or Obamacare. And they don't really get deep into the issues. Okay, what exactly is Medicare for all? Is there a way to get to universal coverage without Medicare for all? They don't ask these type of questions. What would Medicare for all in the single payer system look like? They have it in the UK. They have single payer in a bunch of other countries, a bunch of European countries, and they was able to manage it. How was they able to manage it? You know, um, I just hate the shallow nature of the campaign so far. They it been some talk about free college, right? And it's not just the media, it's the candidates too. So, for example, when it comes to education, what have we been talking about with education? It's been mainly free college, which I support tuition free college. I definitely support that. um, especially because of student loan debt. They've been talking about student loan debt forgiveness, but what it seems like everybody's forgetting, a lot of people drop out before they even reach college. What are we going to do about grade school education? What are we going to do about that? How are we going? What can we do to help poor schools? Now, I know the answer that some people would say. Some people say, okay, that's more of a state and local issue. That's not really too much the federal government can do. I know they have programs like No Child Left Behind and Race to the Top, which gave certain funding to states and local areas. They did certain things and make certain guidelines, but that's mainly a local issue. I disagree because, like I just mentioned, they did have Race to the Top. They did have No Child Left Behind. So why can't they make a federal policy, allocate money, and have states volunteer to get these funds if they meet certain guidelines? Like, I want to hear something like that. One of the ideas that I want to push and I want people to start talking about is the poorer schools, right? I think it should be a law passed, and I want us to start pushing for this. The poor districts need to have as much funding as the highest funded public school in that particular area. So, for example, if you live, I don't know, let's just say New York City, you live in Chicago, I live in Buffalo, right? Whatever the highest funded public school in your region, the poorest school need to have that same type of funding because it's already a two-tier system. Because I went to a school that was struggling with funds. Some of the classes, I know a lot of y'all can relate to this. Some of the classes we couldn't even bring we couldn't even bring the books out of the class. We had classroom sets of books. If you actually wanted to be proactive and study, you had to sign a book out. Which you granted that if you really wanted to do that, you could because most people wasn't volunteering to take those books home. But like just stuff like that. When I was in high school, we didn't have SAT prep classes. And I was shocked because I had a cousin that was going to a suburban school and they had whole SAT prep classes. I'm just like, what? And we competing with these same students. We are competing with these same students right now. And how is a kid that already going to a school where they might not have enough books, they might not have enough funding, supposed to compete with these richer districts that already have all of that, plus getting SAT prep classes, and plus already probably getting tutors from home. So that's is an idea that I haven't heard anybody speak about. These are type of issues that we need to force these politicians to address. And right now, the presidential campaign is in full swing. Don't forget, there's still local elections. You're everybody in the House of Representatives, because every 2 years, the House of Representatives is up for re-elections. This is the type of stuff we need to bring to your local congressman. If you can go to a town hall meeting, go. And even bring it up to City Hall, because City Hall, aldermen or city councilmen, they have chamber meetings. Granted, they usually hold it when people are working, ironically, right? But if you can, every once in a while, try to see what's going on with them. Call them up, call up their office. You know, we need to get organized. We need to change the way we think about politics. We definitely need to start doing that. We need to start coming up with ideas, focus ideas, and not just every 4 years waiting for a presidential election, waiting for one person to save us, because that's not how it works. Because a politician is only going to do what they have to do. No matter if you like them or not, it could be, you could think that this politician is the greatest person in the world. Trust me, they're going to do only what they have to do and what we force them to do. Why? Because they're going to have other constituents. They have interest groups donating money to them. Now, politics is about money. It's usually about how much money you can raise. So you have a bunch of interest groups. You have high dollar donors. Who are they going to listen to first? Are they going to listen to you, or are they going to listen to the donors? Especially, they're not going to listen to you if you're not involved. Sometimes, if at least if you involved and paying attention a little bit, they they at least have to placate you. They might at least try to make some changes on the edge. But ultimately, the long term goal is we definitely need a black political pack to address our needs, the needs of black people in this country. We need a black political pack because we always talk about criminal justice reform, and you see that these presidential candidates, they are talking about criminal justice reform, which is good. Most of the Democratic candidates support some type of criminal justice reform, but we need to go farther than that. What about police reforms? Because if you pass criminal justice reform, which are all for, it needs to be passed, police, unless these laws is changed, these police shootings is not going to stop because there's still not going to be any consequences. Police officers still going to get the benefit of doubt most of the time. We need a national use of force law. Again, national use of force law. Now, if you do this, states will challenge that. You probably have to go to court, but I would claim the supremacy clause. What is the supremacy clause? The supremacy clause is that the federal government has supremacy over state and local government if it goes to court. So federal law take precedent over state law. So this is why on a major level, a lot of this stuff you have to do on the federal level. Um, that's why we have to organize now. We do have to organize amongst ourselves, start doing certain things and getting things popping in our local communities, our own, with organizations, with mentoring. But ultimately, we do that to gain power to get to the federal level and change some of these laws as well. And that's the other problem too with Trump, right? I know a lot of people think that doesn't matter who's in the office, and I get that to a certain extent because a lot of times Democrats don't do shit. You know, um, they placate us. They just a lot of times they don't even promise us too much. A lot of times you just say, okay, we not as racist as the Republicans, vote for us. However, However, it does make a difference in this. People don't think about judges. Now, judges on the federal level have a lot of power. It is not just the Supreme Court. You got the Court of Appeals, the appellate courts. So right now, Trump been put in a whole bunch, have put in a boatload of extreme conservative judges, borderline white supremacist judges, in some cases outright white supremacist judges. This is where it make a difference because if we do get our stuff together, if we actually pass laws that will actually benefit us, and these conservative attorney generals challenge it, and it goes to these courts, if it goes to some of these judges, it's not looking too good. And this is something we're gonna have to deal with the next 2 decades, at least, because unfortunately, President Obama and the Democrats, when they had power, wasn't aggressive enough, and they left a lot of vacancies. And right now, Trump is filling them up. So another term of Trump, not only the Supreme Court is lost, the two lower courts will be lost for generations on end. So it is very important for this not to happen. Now, that doesn't mean I support the Democrats. I am ultimately most likely going to vote for the Democratic nominee because, like I said, I think with the judge situation, that's extremely dangerous. But we definitely need to make them address our issues. So far, black issues been pushed to the back burner, even with the debate in Atlanta, right? One of the last debates was in Atlanta. They barely asked any questions pertaining to black issues. Barely any questions pertaining to black issues, you know, in a majority black city. And that was what I thought was the point of that debate. Nothing on that. Hardly nothing on that. Um, Bernie Sanders, which is one of the leading candidates right now, one of the first things he was asked when he announced his presidency, whether he would support reparations, right? And people asked him this because in 2016 he said he thought reparations would be divisive. Now, granted, in 2016 none of the candidates supported reparations. I am glad that a lot of us is getting more focus on reparations because this is something that been needed. Um, Shout out to Tasiani Coates, who wrote the case for reparations. That kind of got the ball rolling in that direction a few years ago when he wrote that article. And then you have various groups now that have took up the mantle and went even further with that. So Bernie Sanders didn't support it. Joe Biden don't support reparations. Matter of fact, when he was asked about reparations at the debate in Atlanta, he turned the question into an answer about immigration somehow, and the moderators just let him get away with that. The only candidate that outright supported reparations in full was Marianne Williamson, and even her number was too low. But at least she had a plan, which I can acknowledge. Now, since then, it's been a little bit of progress, not the progress that most of us want to see, because I know people feel different things about HR 40. That's the reparation bill in the House of Representatives. Basically, what it would do is it would create a commission to examine reparations, how much we would get, how would it be allocated, who would get it, etc., etc. I support the bill. I do, and I understand the point that we don't need any more commissions or nothing like that. They just need to give us reparations because it's due, and I get that. I get that, but I look at things in the long term. I think we got to start looking at things like conservatives look at things, and like some progressives look at things too, right? So I'm gonna give you an example. Conservatives been itching, itching to get rid of Roe versus Wade, um, abortion, right? They've been itching to try and make abortion illegal. Now, how was they going to do that? Because the Supreme Court says abortion is legal, right? With Roe versus Wade. What they did, they strategized. They said, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to take over the courts. And what we're going to do is we're going to take over the state legislators. So they took over the legislation body of states. And what they've been doing state by state, they haven't outright banned abortion, but they made it extremely hard to get. They made the criteria to keeping an abortion clinic open extremely hard. Rather, and what I'm saying here, I'm not saying I'm for that or against that. I'm just talking about the strategy with that. It's a brilliant strategy, even if you disagree with it. What progressives are doing, right, with Bernie Sanders, with Medicare for All. Nobody was talking about Medicare for All in the mainstream until he ran for president in 2016. Whether you're for Medicare for All or if you're against it, doesn't matter. The strategy was to push it forward, and that's what he did. That's what he did. So now, even if he get elected, most likely Medicare for All is not going to pass, even if he get elected. However, he can get some. If he does get elected, some sort of healthcare bill is going to get passed. It might not be Medicare for All, but it'd be better than the system we have. And eventually, I know those people that support Medicare for All is never going to give up that goal. The thing is, you got to look at it not like it's going to happen tomorrow. You look at it, okay, how can we push this forward? even if it take decades, because what the conservatives did with their abortion strategy, it was a decade on in strategy, decade on in. So that's what we have to do. We gotta start thinking long term because a lot of this stuff is not gonna happen tomorrow. That's why you have strategies. That's why you talk about it, and you push it forward as much as you can. That's why we do strategic voting. I got a few comments here. So, um, Happy Juice said, I think another issue is that when people feel their needs aren't met, they won't focus on politics as much. They in constant, they in survival mode. I get that, and I concur 100% with that. Um, we all have our regular lives to live. Life is hard. Like if you at work all day, right? Sometimes your 9 to 5 is so draining, and then you go home. If you have a family, if you have kids, like you feel like I don't have time to do anything else, and the little bit of time I have, I don't want to focus on these people bickering back and forth. I just want to, sit back, relax, maybe drink some wine, whatever it is you do, light up. I don't know, whatever it is you want to do, or whatever it is you do to relax. I want to do that, right? And I get that. I definitely get that. Um, the thing is, though, like it comes back to us because these policies ends up affecting us. Like certain laws they pass affects certain industries. So like during the '08 crash, a lot of people lost their jobs. It affected a lot of businesses, therefore it affected a lot of employees. People that was getting ready to retire, it affected their 401ks, which is money that is needed, especially if you're getting ready to retire. So these type of issues definitely affect us. I think it's our job, people in the know, to really relate it to people regular lives. You know. So the next thing I want to talk about too, I might get back into this Iowa caucus as soon as I hear some news. I'll announce it. I want to talk about something that needs to end immediately, and I believe needs to end this year. All right, the gender war that going on social media. I'm not even going to say between black men and black women because I don't see it as much in real life. Yes, I do know that sometimes it does go on offline, but on social media, man, it's a beast. Yo, it's a beast on social media. And what brought me to this subject is Terry Crews, right? So I think most of us know about Terry Crews' recent comments when he was asked about Gabrielle Union, right? And America Got Talent. I never watched that show in my life, so I know nothing about it. But apparently, I guess Terry Crews is on it now, and I guess Gabrielle Union was on it before. I had no idea to the situation happened because, like I said, that's not a program I watch. But anyway, Gabrielle Union have made certain claims about how it ran there and might be a little bit racist. And the funny thing is, Nick Cannon, I believe, made similar claims before when he left as well, right? But anyway, they asked Terry Crews about this, and he didn't back her up at all. And this was made a big deal because Gabriel Union had his back during his sexual assault case when a lot of people was making fun of him. And he basically said, "Well, I don't just because you back me up, I don't have to back you up. And the only person I really need to look out for is my wife." Basically, you know, and a lot of people felt some type of way, which they should have. But one thing I seen after this happened is it was a storm, especially on social media, saying, "Okay, this is how black men do. They never have black women back," and While that is true for some black men, it's a lot of sellouts out there. It's a lot of people that cooning, and I'm trying to stop saying cooning so much because I think the term been overused, and when you overly use a term, it loses value. But um, there is people that it applies to. But anyway, yes, there is black men like that, right? That would throw black women under the bus and vice versa. The thing we got to do is stop taking one example of when a black man do something or when a black woman do something and basically say that's how the whole gender act. And that's my beef with this situation. And I remember I had a polite debate with this sister online because that was her frame of mind. She was trying to say that, okay, this is typical. Black men always throw us under the bus. And I had to point out, I'm like, Terry Crews been having suspect behavior when it came to race for quite a while now. I had to remind her, like, he told black people, and especially black men, to forgive Donald Sterling. And Donald Sterling was an outright racist. Outright racist. For those of you who forgot, he's the one that made those racist comments. He was the former owner of the Clippers. I think he's deceased now, but he was the former owner of the LA Clippers that had to sell his team, and NBA forced him to sell his team for making racist remarks when he was recorded by, ironically, his black girlfriend or mistress, whatever you want to call it. But anyway, he wanted us to forgive Donald Sterling, right? He defended Gina Rodriguez. For those of you who don't know who she is, she was on the show. The only reason I even know about this show is because my wife loved it. Jane the Virgin. So, but anyway, she have a lot of hate towards black women. You can just tell in her interviews, and she have made some suspect comments. He defended her. So he had a lot of suspect behavior. I mean, with DL Hughley, right? DL Hughley made fun of him, was clowning his little situation with him being sexually assaulted or the little short white guy grabbing his package or whatever. And he kind of insinuated that, yo, I'll beat your ass. And like a lot of people pointing out, okay, you'll put hands on DL Hughley, but you're not going to put hands on the person that actually sexually assaulted you. Doesn't make sense. So, and besides that, Terry Crews have played a stereotype his whole career. White chicks. Like he always have these little suspect roles. So his behavior been questioned for a while when it comes to the issue of race. And then shout out to the sister. She was like, "Yeah, that is true." I think sometimes if we just reach out and have a intelligent debate about this, some of these issues won't get as volatile. And I think that's what we have to start doing because my thing is this: black men and black women both have it bad. It just manifests in different ways. So we shouldn't be having these pissing contests about which one of us have it worse. It doesn't make sense. We both have it bad. It just manifests in different ways. Like I said, black women do have legitimate complaints about the way some of these brothers be acting out here. No doubt, no doubt. And I know that there's black men that say, okay, some black women be joining with white feminists just to throw us under the bus, which in some cases, like that whole Holla Back campaign, where it was proven, that was the whole cat call thing. They wanted to make it illegal for men to cat call, and they had like a hidden camera video. And initially, this organization, Holla Back, they released it, and it was all black men they were showing, right? But they edited the video. They edited out all the white men that was whistling as well. So there's legitimate complaints on both sides. Black men, we have it extremely higher in the criminal justice system with police. Black women do too, but it affects us at a higher rate. I think the images on for both black men and black women on TV are horrible in different ways. I know, especially a lot of my darker sisters have legitimate complaints about portrayals in on TV and in movies. These complaints are legitimate, and I definitely see it. So what I think we need to do is acknowledge each other's um, situations and move forward, because going forward to get the things that we need to accomplish done, we're going to need unity between black men and black women. And I don't want to see this constant sniping. And let's keep it real, some people are making money off of it. Some people, this is their whole show, that's their whole gimmick, is about how a black woman did this or a black man did that, and they keep this gender war going. Yo, that needs to end. That needs to end. Black men need to have black women back. Black women need to have black men back. In the story. In the story. We need to stop all of this fussing, all this bickering over something. A lot of times we don't even know what we're fighting about. Like, especially on social media, it doesn't make sense. So, let's see. Do I have anything else I need to talk about? Oh, yeah. Before I get off here, because this is the Strong Start show. Hopefully, this started off your week strong, and we need to start off every week strong. I know a lot of people dread Mondays, but you know, we got to end that too. Like, Mondays is a chance for us to get started, to do what we need to do. Let's start off the week strong. Work hard. If you had a job you don't like, you know, take that time, a little bit of time you do have, to plot your next move. With that saying, let your next move be your best move. We definitely need to start doing that, and just think of it as a temporary job until you get the place you want to get. Always start off your week strong. Also, I want to touch on this show. I always want to touch on Mondays, things to look out for during the week. Tomorrow is the State of the Union. I know nobody want to hear Donald Trump talk for over an hour. you know, Nobody want to hear that, but I am going to watch it. Of course, after I do my show, but I am going to watch it, catch the playback of it, and just because I always want to be prepared. In the State of the Union, most of the time it's a lot of BS, but every once in a while they might announce a policy that they planning to enact. So it's worth paying attention to. I'll do it. I'll suffer for y'all. If y'all don't want to hear Trump talk for over an hour, I don't either. But that's when I'm here. I suffer for y'all. I'll give y'all the cliff notes of that. You know. So State and Union happen tomorrow. We'll see if anything big is announced. Of course, like I said, it's the Iowa caucus. We'll know who won tonight, who won the Iowa caucus, and what's going to come out of that. So we need to watch out for that during the week. Impeachment vote supposed to be Wednesday. Of course, Trump going to be acquitted. That's why I never really even talked about the impeachment like that, because I knew he was going to get acquitted. Just because the numbers. Republicans control the Senate, and even if they didn't, you needed an overwhelming majority to impeach. I believe you needed a two-thirds majority, so that just wasn't going to happen with those numbers. He should have been impeached, but I think what they charged him for wasn't enough. They should have went to his finances. So, but because I knew it wasn't going to happen, I never really gave it too much energy, because we just knew. And even if he was impeached, Mike Pence is not too much better. Mike Pence, if you look at his record, yeah, he's a fanatic as well, just smarter, which might actually be more dangerous. So watch out for that. There's no suspense on that. Trump definitely gonna get acquitted. And there's going to be some other stories during the week. So on Friday shows, I always do a wrap up. But tune in tomorrow, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. I have Let the Ink Speak, and tomorrow it's going to be a little bit different than this show. We're going to talk about a particular song that I don't think get discussed enough. It's Nas Ghetto Prisoners off his I Am album, dropped in '99, and I definitely want to discuss that because on Let the Ink Speak, the concept of that show is I go into great writings, great literature, whether it's books, great songs, and especially hip hop songs because I'm a hip hop head, whether it's a battle rap verse, whatever. But the key is I focus on stuff that have a little bit more social content. I want to break it down for y'all. Like I always want to go to what was the time period like because I believe environment shape art. So during '99 was the environment like in '99. Um, does the song still hold up to the test of time? And with Nas, it's funny. The reason why I chose Ghetto Prisoners and like I'm going to expound on that tomorrow is that a lot of the stuff that he was talking about on the song still applies today. So tune in for that tomorrow. Thanks for all the support. Thanks for tuning in. Peace.